Warning, the following audio transmission will forever change your outlook on society. You will no longer believe the narrative. You are about to wake up and see things for what they really are. News, facts, and opinions. This is the Doom Daily Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Doom Daily Show. I am your host, Jester Dooms. The email, doomdailyshow@gmail.com. Find us everywhere on social media at Jester Dooms. The website, www.jestersvoice.com. I hope everybody is having a lovely Friday, January 9th. Man, got a little bit of a frog in my throat today, ladies and gentlemen, so just bear with me here. You might be hearing me sipping on some extra aqua. Okay, so it's Friday. You've made it to the weekend. You know what that means. You get 2 days of R&R, and then you'll be back to the grind. But when Monday rolls around, don't forget, you'll have another brand new episode of the Doom Daily Show and another brand new episode of the It's DoomsDay podcast. It's really a very interesting feeling for myself to see two shows drop on Monday morning, both of the shows that are mine. It's a really interesting feeling, because it was always like very exciting, seeing when we first launched its Doomsday podcast. It was very cool, like seeing that drop every Monday. And then as we progressed and started doing lives and dropping multiple shows a week and, doing like bonus weekend episodes and stuff, it was like, wow, like this is like, it's like all the time, boom, 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 boom. You're seeing all these shows drop. And after a while, it kind of loses its luster and it's not as exciting. But then you've got the Doom Daily Show that I see drop daily now. And that's always an exciting feeling, because I'm also not the one doing the work. We actually have a producer now. So it's kind of like, I'm not seeing what's going on behind the scenes anymore. And then boom, I see it drop in the morning. And then boom, I'm seeing two drop at once. So it's really freaking cool. Okay. It's really badass. So long and the short is, you're going to get 2 episodes Mondays from now on. As far as the It's Doomsday podcast goes, I think we're probably just going to stick to 1 episode a week, unless we do get guests on that show. I mean, we do get guest requests on the show sometimes. We've had a lot of cool guests too over the years. So unless there's like a guest coming on or something, or there's a special segment, like it's just going to be 1 a week. Okay. And this is probably going to be, the It's Doomsday podcast, this is its 6th year going. Eventually it's going to meet its demise. Okay. Eventually that is going to happen. And I don't have a set date to pull the plug on it. It's not something that I'm looking forward to either. But I will say this. If my new co-host leaves me or something happens to him, that's it. It's probably done. It's probably over at that point, because I'm not going to continue to hunt for another co-host, and I'm not going to do that show by myself. I don't know what I would do in the realm of another survivalist podcast show, if anything at all. I don't know. All I know is that is it. It's Doomsday Podcast will die with our new co-host. I hope you all are having a lovely morning so far. I hope that the coffee's fresh, the beans are smelling good, your donut was nice and delicious and tasty. I hope that maybe you got that mile running that you wanted to do this week in the morning. I don't know. We all have different dreams, aspirations, and goals. And I hope you're meeting your mark. I hope you're hitting that shit head on. And I hope you're meeting your mark. And I hope it's all working out fantastically for you. Okay. I am just drained. All right. I'm so just overly drained with everything that's going on in day-to-day life. And the other day, I got some energy back and I'm starting to get going again. But just, man, I'm telling you, like this, I had a friend come in town for a week, and then as soon as he left, the in-laws got here. Then they were here for like 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something, and then they had just left at the beginning of this week. So I'm like, the exhaustion is setting in, and now I'm working extra hours this week, so I'm just toasted. it's over. I'm toast. So, and then I'm working an additional 24 hours this weekend. So when you guys are like enjoying your weekend, I'll be working, which is fine. I'm happy to get the extra hours. Like the way my work schedule is at work, it's kind of like I do not have a set fucking schedule, which one would think that my employer would have some sort of dedicated set something for part-time employees. Okay. But the problem is with the way they do things at my work is it's on an as needed basis. Okay. So instead of doing anything ethical or logical in the realm of saving the company money, they would rather just blow money and not bring in part-time people. So say that you have, this guy that's already been scheduled and he's already at his mark for the week, and he's starting to get into overtime or compensation time or whatever. One would think it would make way more sense to bring in a part-timer so you're not having to pay this guy time and a half. One would think that. So one would think that there would be a schedule that would be designed that would say, hey, each part-timer is going to be expected to get X amount of hours per week, and we're going to split this up accordingly, whether they come in for, say that they have it set up like, okay, you're a part-timer, you're on the schedule, and part-timers are guaranteed to get 24 hours a week. Okay. And, maybe they would give you the option. You could do that in 2 12s. You could do that in 3 8s. You could do that in 1 24-hour shift. Okay. But make it to where your part-timers are limited, to where your part-timers are capped at a certain amount of hours. Okay. And then make it to where your full-timers are capped so they cannot get into overtime unless needed. Right. Because we have enough part-time guys on the payroll to make these things work and make these things happen. But the problem is you've got people that are trying to run a business that have really no experience running a business. So that's like the debacle I find myself in. Anyway, we'll be right back after these messages.
Can't get enough of Jester Dooms? Check out his other show, It's Doomsday Podcast, available on all podcast platforms. That's It's Doomsday Podcast.
Back to the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Doom Daily Show. I'm your host, Jester Dooms. The email, doomdailyshow@gmail.com. I don't know where I want to go first with... Well, I think that I kind of want to go with this article first, okay? So since we got really into the illegal trucking industry, we'll just call it that, I'd like to go with this article, all right? And this is, U.S. is to pull $160 million from California over licenses foreign truck drivers, okay? This is by Joe McLovin on the Epic Times. The federal government will withhold about $160 million from California for failing to cancel over 17,000 illegally issued commercial driver's license by January 5th. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy announced on Wednesday. In quotations, "It's reckoning day for Governor Gavin Newsom in California," Duffy said in a statement. "Our demands were simple: follow the rules, revoke the unlawfully issued licenses to dangerous foreign drivers, and fix the system so this never happens again." So, I want to say this number again. 17,000 illegally issued commercial driver's licenses. 17,000. Ladies and gentlemen, in my mind, when I was reading through these articles the last couple of days and discovered that California was one of the problematic states, I was thinking like maybe a few hundred licenses were issued, maybe in the closer neighborhood of like 1,000 were issued. I was not thinking 17,000. This number is way larger than what I thought it would have been, right? I just, that's almost mind-blowing. Now, when you come to the realization that these are fraudulently obtained licenses, you then come to the realization that that's 17,000 people are driving illegally that should not have these licenses to begin with. Now, it also really shines a light on how bad the immigration problem is, because 17,000 of these people were able to get licenses. How many other are not truck drivers? How many other are not working in this industry? But then you realize also that, you're not running 17,000 guys through one truck driving school a year, right? Maybe you're getting one class a week with, say there's 10 guys per class. Okay, there's 52 weeks in a year. That's what? It's 520 people per year. So how many schools out there were committing fraud? And how did the state let 17,000 of these guys go unnoticed? It's interesting. So absolutely withhold that fucking funding. Pull that $160 million. California delayed revoking licenses until March 6th after the state was sued by immigrant truck drivers and business owners. Duffy warned last month that the state could lose the funding over the delay. The Federal Transportation Agency's audit of the National Non-Domicile Commercial Driver's License Program found a systematic collapse of California's program, which allowed the state to illegally issue licenses with expiration dates extending beyond a driver's lawful presence in the United States, according to the agency. More than 25% of foreign commercial driver's licenses issued by California were issued unlawfully, the audit revealed. Okay, so more than a quarter of what they're doing. So if they're pushing 100 people through a class, a quarter of that class, 25 people in that class, are obtaining fraudulent licenses. In all, more than 20,000 active foreign drivers held commercial driver's licenses issued by California in violation of the safety regulations, the Department of Transportation, DOT, reported. In quotations, federal regulations are clear that states must correct safety on a schedule mutually agreeing upon. The agency in California failed to meet its commitment to restrict the unlawfully issued licenses by January 5th. Derek Bars, chief of the Federal Motor Carriers Safety Administration, part of the DOT. Bars added that his department would not accept a corrective plan from California that knowingly leaves thousands of drivers holding non-compliant licenses. In November, California agreed to revoke every illegally issued license within 60 days and to work with federal agency to verify that program failures were addressed. California set out notices in November after its first order to fix the program, but was sued last month by the S2-E6 coalition, representing about 20,000 immigrant drivers and business owners in the state. The group argued that canceling the licenses will leave thousands of eligible drivers out of work and disrupt supply chains and services. The suit also blames the State Department of Motor Vehicles for committing administrative errors. The DOT had already withheld $40 million from California after the investigation found the state failed to comply with federal English language proficiency standards. Newsom's office referred to questions about the funding cut to the state's transportation department, also known as Caltrans, which did not immediately return a request for a comment. Okay, so it's very simple. You did not want to abide by the rules and regulations. Therefore, you're not getting your funding, period. And then when you see how big these numbers were, it's like, what the hell? But here's the thing, too. Like I said before, California is going to do whatever it is the fuck they want to do. So what are you going to do? You're in a democratically ran state that is for immigration, and you have immigrants walking your streets that are everywhere. You got to do something with them. So what do? You cut the red tape and you get them jobs as truck drivers and you send them out on the road and you keep the supply chains moving. Would be a great plan to deal with illegal immigration if they were going through the proper channels, and they're not. And we'll be right back after these messages.
Hey, Producer Scooter here. First off, thank you for downloading and participating in the wide world of Jester Doom. Please be sure to check out JestersVoice.com website. Everything you want to know is located on JestersVoice.com. If you're looking for salacious details, it's on JestersVoice.com. Don't forget to share the show with your friends and even with all your enemies. And now, back to the musings of Jester Doom.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Doom Daily Show. I'm your host, Jester Dooms. The email doomdailyshow@gmail.com. It's very rare we get the opportunity of this kind of thing that happens on the show. Okay, so as I'm sitting here recording the show, boom, we get hit with a breaking news article. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump right into this. This is on the Epic Times by Joseph Lord. 2 shot, injured in incident with federal police in Portland. 2 people were shot and injured after an incident involving federal law enforcement in Portland, Oregon. The city government of Portland announced in a statement posted online that the shooting had taken place. According to the statement, Portland law enforcement responded around 2:18 p.m. on Thursday to a report of a shooting in the Hazelwood neighborhood of Portland. Officers confirmed on the scene the federal agents had been involved. Portland said that its officers were not involved in the incident. Portland Police Chief Bob Day referred to the proximity of the incident and urged locals to remain calm. In quotations, "We are still in the early stages of this incident," they said. "We understand the heightened emotion and the tension many are feeling in the wake of the shooting in Minneapolis, but I am asking the community to remain calm as we work to learn more. The shooting comes a day after an American citizen was shot and killed in Minneapolis, Minnesota by immigration and customs enforcement agents. The administration has said that the shooting was in self-defense and has described the woman who was killed as a domestic terrorist." Okay, so this is all we have right now on the Epic Times. This is still a breaking story. Okay, so God, 2026 is off to a bang. So I'm assuming when they're referring to federal police in Portland, I'm assuming it is ICE. I'm just going to go ahead and assume that. I'm assuming that it probably is, and there is no more further information on this. Okay, now we all know that there are protests happening all over the place right now due to the Minneapolis shooting, and we know how that's going. Okay. People are going to protest. They're going to riot. They're going to break shit. They're pissed. They have been waiting for something. Okay. You had people, and I'm sorry. No, I'm not. I'm not fucking sorry. I'm not fucking sorry. People have been actively attacking ICE officials for months. Okay. Staking them out, destroying their cars, throwing shit at them, running them out of town, being verbally and physically abusive to them. They are hired to do a job. They need to get a paycheck just like everybody else does. They have families and kids and parents and loved ones, and they are red-blooded human beings just like all of us. All right? Now, I understand you may not like while they're there, but do also understand these guys have jobs and they are following orders. Okay? Irregardless. Now, for those of you that are opposed to ICE, we have gone down this road of immigration 100 times on the show. Okay, for those of you that are opposed to this, just remember this. We should have never let this problem get this fucking bad in the first place. Period. We should have thrown more. So when you had motherfuckers laughing, okay, about the border crisis and laughing as Kamala Harris is up there doing her crazy horse laugh about the border, and you've got fucking the other horse-looking bitch, AOC down there, or poking fun at this thing and trying to make stink of what's happening and everything else. No, none of these officials, they didn't put anything. They didn't put boots on the ground in the correct manner to fix the problems that were there. Because you could have instead of sitting on your ass and throwing out bullshit statements and getting Americans fired up, you could have sat down and said, "Hey, let's work on a real solution for this problem. Let's start an expedited process for vetting and getting people in here and getting permanent resident status and doing all this." What did they do? They fucking ignored the border crisis for fucking years. Now it's a problem that has to be dealt with, and it's being dealt with, and nobody's happy about the outcome. Well, the people that aren't happy about the outcome were the ones who didn't want the border crisis to be fixed in the first place. Okay? And I go back, and I had somebody throw this analogy at me one time, when we talk about securing the border, this, that, the other. It's like, well, would you live in a house with 3 walls? And the answer is no, you would not. And it goes the same with this country. I want a country that's secured. I want to know who's coming in. I want to know that my kids are safe to walk down the street. I don't want somebody who's undocumented coming in here, not in the system, that could do harm to my family or my kids and simply get away scot-free because we don't know who they were. They're not in the system. There's no DNA matches. There's no fingerprint matches. And they just take off back across the border. And they were, my people that I care about could have been injured by a ghost in the system that nobody knows. And they get away scot-free. Not fucking K. All right. But now the problem is being dealt with and people are unhappy. And it was only a matter of time before somebody did something to have one of these ICE officials shoot them. Okay. And I'm telling you what, you're going up against armed officials. If you push them, they're going to push back. And they have an escalation of force policy, just like every other law enforcement agency out there. So if you escalate that situation, they are allowed to use deadly force. Okay. Now, the thing that's really interesting about it is because I don't know what their escalation of force policy is, but I'd love to see it because with the work I've done within law enforcement, that varies by state. It varies by state. It varies by jurisdiction. These guys are federal and they're going everywhere. So I would love to see their escalation of force policy. I would love to see what it says because I guarantee you their escalation of force policy is probably a lot minor compared to other law enforcement agencies, one would think, because you're moving in so many different areas and, different areas come with different crimes come with different violence. I mean, so it's, you don't want your agents getting gunned down in the street. You don't want your agents losing their lives. So do you have them wait till after they're being shot at to return fire? Like, at what point do you have them act? And then also remember, they're federal, so they're held to a different standard entirely. Anyway, we'll be right back after these messages.
Jester from It's Doomsday podcast and the Doom Daily Show here. Do you ever find yourself overloaded with way too much information? Too many logins, too many passwords, too many websites for stuff you like? Yeah, I'm the same way. You don't have to worry about that with the Doom Daily Show and It's Doomsday podcast. Let's make it simple. Just visit linktree.com/JesterDooms. Add it to your bookmarks. That way, when you need to find the right information, it's right there, under a tap of your finger or a click of your mouse. Go to linktree.com/JesterDooms. Get it, got it, done. Remember, no one has all the answers, but this will provide you with a place to start. linktree.com/JesterDooms. And now, on with the conversation. And here's Jester.
Okay. Welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm your host, Jester Dooms. The email, doomdailyshow@gmail.com. Don't forget to give me your IRL, your 1-week interaction. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the show. Also, go to the website, www.jestersvoice.com. Hit that button at the top of the screen and leave me an audio message. All right. We got one more article for you, then we're going to be out of here. We'll be back on Monday, okay? All right. This is on the Epic Times by Jill McLovin again. Minnesota governor calls up National Guard to support law enforcement. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz announced the state's National Guard Thursday to be staged and ready to support local and state law enforcement after the activist shooting death inflamed protesters, leading to more clashes with federal officers. And we all knew that was going to happen, right? The troops will only be used to protect critical infrastructure and maintain public safety, according to Walz. Okay, so let's talk about that for a second, because that's very broad. When you talk about critical infrastructure and you talk about protecting maintain public safety. Okay, so critical infrastructure, let's talk about that. That's your water treatment facilities. That's your power distribution facilities. That critical infrastructure could be considered anything from a septic treatment plant to your internet distribution box on the corner. Okay, like it can vary so much. Critical infrastructure is a blanket. Now, somebody that used to work in law enforcement and talk about critical infrastructure and going through things like terrorism training and stuff like that, it's larger facilities we typically talk about. Power plants, water treatment facilities. That's what we would consider critical infrastructure that we would have to protect and maintain in the event shit hits the fan, right? But it can also go down to something as small as this unmanned building with a bunch of satellites on it that relays internet signal. It could be as small as something as a power distribution center on the corner that's unmanned and is only occupying an eighth of an acre worth of space. It could be something as small as that little tiny box you see on the corner that has 1,000 internet lines running through it. Okay? So that's what that is. Now, also, when you talk about public safety, maintain public safety. Okay, let's talk about that one for a second, because your version of safety and my version of safety might be totally different things. Two totally different things. Okay, so let's break this down. If they institute a curfew on the guides of public safety, they might be out enforcing curfews. Okay. If you have protesters actively throwing shit off bridges at oncoming traffic, and these troops go and shut down roadways and put up blockades, that's for public safety. If you have a situation like another chop zone take place, and they go in there and they run people out of town, that's on the guides of public safety. Okay, so just remember, these two things that they're saying are very fucking blanketed terminology. Many things can fall underneath of this umbrella when they say that, all right? But when they put it like this and they word it like this in the media, it doesn't sound as bad. But if you can see beneath the surface of things and you can read between the lines, they're going to be given a lot more authority than how this article reads. But this is better than them saying, they're just going to be helping out local and state law enforcement officials. That's all. Putting it like this makes it sound better, even though it's not better per se. Okay. The governor has repeatedly criticized the thousands of federal immigration agents taking part in a statewide fraud investigation involving the Somalia community. Somalia, I think that's, yeah, maybe. In quotations, yesterday I directed the National Guard to be ready should they be needed. Walz said in a statement, they remain ready in the event they are needed to help keep the peace, ensure public safety, and allow for peaceful demonstration. Walz warned the National Guard to prepare for deployment Wednesday following the shooting of Renee Nicole Good, 37, by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, officer during an enforcement operation in Minneapolis. According to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, DHS, the officer fired to protect himself because Good was driving her vehicle toward the officer. Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey have condemned the shooting. The governor said Thursday that the state had been excluded from the investigation into the federal shooting. Like I said, different standards, ladies and gentlemen. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem and Vice President J.D. Vance disputed Walz's claims, saying the shooting was under federal jurisdiction. Again, like I said, okay. Protests flared Thursday, aimed pleas by Walz to not give into violence. Walz was serving his first term as governor when George Floyd died in 2020 during an arrest in Minneapolis, which incited in one of the largest waves of civil unrest and violence in U.S. history and resulted in violence, looting, and arson. And the local media the media in this country was not held accountable at all, because they put the body cam footage out there to show just enough to get the public fired up. The human desire to lash out in this moment is very real. Walz told reporters Thursday, I can tell you that this is the wish of many people. They want to see us turn toward violence. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, just be aware that they are protesting out there, that shit is happening, and it looks like they're calling in the guard to make sure shit doesn't get too bad out there. All right. Anyway, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have a great weekend. If you're not following the show, please do so, and we will see you guys back here on Monday for another exciting episode of the Doom Daily Show.
New news, facts, and opinions. This is the Doom Daily Show.